Thank you, colleagues. Now we're going to try again. These online sessions wouldn't be the same if we didn't have a few connectivity issues. But we're going to move on to the next item of business, which, just to remind you, is a debate on motion 23946 in the name of Jean Freeman on the University of St Andrews Degrees in Medicine and Dentistry Bill at Stage 1. Again, I would invite all members who wish to contribute to this debate to press an R in the chat function, just so I can make sure that everybody is on board. And could I call on the Cabinet Secretary, Jean Freeman, to speak to and to move the motion?
Very much, Presiding Officer. I'm pleased to open the debate on the general principles of the University of St Andrews Degrees in Medicine and Dentistry Bill. Let me start by recording my thanks to the Health and Sport Committee for its very careful scrutiny of the bill and for its support for the bill's general principles. Let me also thank Finance and Constitution Committee for its consideration of the bill. I'm very grateful to the organisations and individuals who've provided evidence to the Health and Sport Committee. The committee has, in my view, delivered a fair report on the bill and the evidence that was provided to it. The government's response to that report has been provided to Parliament, and I hope that members have had the opportunity to review it ahead of this debate. This technical and single-purpose bill has been welcomed and supported by the majority of stakeholders. The bill's purpose is to repeal an archaic, unfair and arguably anti-competitive prohibition which prevents the University of St Andrews from awarding medical and dentistry degrees. The prohibition, put in place over 50 years ago, was always intended to be transitionary, and it is no longer appropriate for it to remain in law. The prohibition was put in place by the University Scotland Act 1966 as a transitional provision in order to give immediate effect to the separation of Queen's College in Dundee from the University of St Andrews in order to form the University of Dundee. That purpose has clearly been achieved, and Dundee University has long since become a reputable and well-established higher education institution. St Andrews has educated students and contributed to the rich tapestry of our higher education world in Scotland for over 600 years. But no other education institution or higher education institution in Scotland or in the UK is prohibited by primary legislation from awarding degrees in any discipline, and it is clear that the 1966 Act did not ever envisage or intend to prevent future competition between St Andrews University and any other higher education institution in Scotland or indeed the UK. In removing the prohibition, therefore, the bill will create a fairer higher education sector and enable all of our valued institutions to maximise the options they offer to students in Scotland. The reason for introducing the bill at this time is to enable St Andrews University to award, jointly with the University of Dundee, primary medical qualification degrees to ScotGem students in advance of the first cohort graduating in 2022. ScotGem is Scotland's first graduate entry programme for medicine and formed part of a package of initiatives announced by the Scottish Government in 2016 to enhance the NHS workforce of the future. It was always intended as a jointly awarded degree and as such is highly valued by its students, as the committee has itself heard. It's delivered also in collaboration with the University of the Highlands and Islands and a number of partner health boards. It has a specific focus on general practice and remote and rural working, and it aims to retain as many doctors as possible within NHS Scotland following their graduation. I acknowledge some concerns that have been raised by a small number of stakeholders on what they consider to be the potentially negative impacts should the University of St Andrews offer its own PMQ medical degree in the future. Those concerns are precisely why medicine and dentistry are controlled subjects in order that policy decisions can be made by the government of the day in collaboration with others as to the number of undergraduate medical and dentistry students at any given time and the distribution of those across different higher education institutions and across clinical placements within the NHS. Although the University of St Andrews may well have an ambition to offer its own PMQ medical degree in the future, this bill will neither determine nor provide for that. And I'm pleased that the Health and Sports Committee's Stage 1 report acknowledges this important point. The question of a higher education institution being able to offer a degree in either of the controlled subjects of medicine or dentistry, and the number of places it is able to offer, if so, is subject to separate financial and regulatory controls and decision-making processes that involve the Scottish Government, Scottish Funding Council, NHS Education Scotland, the General Medical Council, our health boards and others. As the University of St Andrews, together with the University of Dundee, has already been awarded the ScotGem programme, then the immediate effect of the bill would be to allow the university to jointly award the ScotGem PMQ with Dundee University. During Stage 1 evidence, we heard just how clearly that was the expectation of ScotGem students, and we also heard how passionately they feel about their unique identity as students of both universities. In conclusion, Presiding Officer, I'd once again thank the Health and Sport Committee for its scrutiny and its agreement that it would be fundamentally unfair for any part of the prohibition to be retained, given that it was only ever intended to be transitionary. Scotland's higher education sector is facing significant challenges given the constraints on immigration, the consequences of EU exit, and the likely decreased attractiveness of studying abroad as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. There are also significant challenges to overcome in creating and growing a more sustainable medical workforce. Removing the prohibition allows greater flexibility in addressing these challenges by creating a fairer higher education sector and therefore enabling all of Scotland's valued institutions to maximise the options and opportunities they offer to students in the future. It's fair and right that ScotGem students are able to graduate with the jointly awarded degree they believed they were studying for, reflecting both their studies and the incredible work done by both the Universities of Dundee and St Andrews to successfully establish such a successful innovative programme. So I now move that the Parliament agree to the general principles of the University of St Andrews Degrees in Medicine and Dentistry Bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cabinet Secretary. And before I call the party spokespeople to open, I'm going to call on Lewis MacDonald as convener of the Health and Sport Committee to open our debate. Lewis MacDonald.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I'm pleased to speak in this debate as convener of the Health and Sport Committee as we consider the bill at Stage 1. As we've heard, this is a fairly straightforward, single-purpose bill, and our report supporting the general principles of the bill was agreed without division. I would like to start by thanking all those who assisted the committee with their scrutiny, those who responded to our call for views, and those who gave oral evidence. We were particularly pleased to hear directly the views of students on the Scottish Graduate Entry Medicine or ScotGem course, whose impending graduation next year prompted the introduction of the bill at this time. The bill, as we have heard, seeks to remove a legislative prohibition preventing the University of St Andrews from holding qualifying examinations and awarding degrees in medicine or in dentistry. The ScotGem course, which prompted the introduction of this bill, provides for Scotland's first graduate entry medical degree. It is completed over 4 years and results in a primary medical qualification as a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery, MBCHB. It is aimed at graduates interested in a career in general practice and has a focus on rural medicine and healthcare improvement, areas where there is an acknowledged shortfall in meeting future needs. As we've heard, the course is provided jointly by the Universities of St Andrews and Dundee in collaboration with the University of the Highlands and Islands, and the first cohort of students is set to graduate 2022. We heard from their representatives that ScotGem students enrolled to their programme of study with a clear expectation of a degree jointly awarded by the University of St Andrews and the University of Dundee. We heard that for a number of students this joint award was an important factor in their decision to apply, and if the bill were not to be passed, then the ScotGem students' degree would be awarded by the University of Dundee only. It was striking that some of the greatest reservations about the bill were expressed by the principal of Dundee University. While ScotGem is a promising example of collaboration between Dundee and St Andrews, the roots of the ban on St Andrews awarding primary medical qualifications lie in the complex and long-standing relationship between the two neighbouring seats of learning, at times as partners and at times as competitors. That complex relationship will no doubt continue to evolve after the passage of this bill, but the committee were encouraged that the ScotGem initiative would produce positive outcomes next year and beyond. Under this initiative, students can receive a bursary of £5,000 a year for up to 4 years, as long as they commit an equivalent number of years to working for the NHS in Scotland. It would indeed be interesting to know how many years of service have been committed to by the current cohort of students in exchange for that financial support. Beyond ScotGem, the Bill's policy memorandum, as the Cabinet Secretary has just done, highlighted that the University of St Andrews and 7 other institutions have submitted bids to develop proposals for a new medical school, part of a process which has been put on hold as a result of the COVID pandemic. The question of where any new medical school should be located was clearly not one for us to consider in the context of this bill, though it will no doubt be of great interest to future health committees. While this bill is necessary for St Andrews to be considered in this context, it does not automatically enable the university to award primary medical qualifications beyond the current ScotGem programme. Doing that would also require, as we've heard, both regulatory approval and financial support, as is the case for existing medical and dental schools. The Cabinet Secretary told the committee that she would expect future consideration of proposals for a new medical school to look at undergraduate numbers, anticipated flow for associated clinical placements, issues of access and skills retention, and workforce demands. Some of the concerns raised with the committee were around the potential impact of a new medical school at St Andrews on the viability of existing schools, especially in relation to clinical placement for students. While such a process does not arise directly from this bill, we have recommended that any future consideration of proposals for a new medical school should take into account the wider evidence we heard on NHS recruitment and retention, widening access to medicine. In closing, Presiding Officer, the committee unanimously supports the general principles of the bill, and we look forward to seeing the bill progress to stage 2.
Thank you very much, Mr MacDonald. I'm now going to call on Donald Cameron to open for the Conservative Party, followed by Alec Rowley. Donald Cameron.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm delighted to open for the Scottish Conservatives in this debate. Let me be clear at the outset. We support this bill at stage 1 and its general principles. While the subject matter of the bill is of a more technical nature than most health debates, it is nonetheless very important for reasons I will go on to in this brief speech. As we've heard, the bill intends to amend the University of Scotland Act 1966 to remove the provision which stops St Andrews University from awarding degrees in medicine and dentistry. This will allow those on the ScotGem course to receive a joint degree in medicine from both St Andrews and Dundee universities. That course was itself created as a result of shortages in GPs and rural medicine. In many ways, this bill seeks to right a historical anomaly. The prohibition was originally intended to be temporary and originated from the time when the University of Dundee was created as a separate institution in the 1960s, when the clinical school previously used by St Andrews became part of the new University of Dundee. The reason for bringing forward the legislation now is to allow students of the ScotGem course to receive a joint degree from both institutions. And it is worth remembering that the ScotGem course occurs in collaboration with the University of the Highlands and Islands. It's generally believed that in removing the prohibition, the bill creates a fairer higher education sector and enables all of Scotland's institutions to maximise the options and opportunities they offer. This is significant in and of itself, and shows why this is not merely a question of technicalities. The ScotGem course is important because, as I've said, it was initiated as a way to try and address workforce shortages in rural areas. Pausing there, that is of huge importance given the difficulties we have in recruiting and retaining GPs in rural areas. And representing the Highlands and Islands, I'm well aware of the acute issues we have had in that regard here in my region. Scotland has always had a higher number of GPs per capita than in other parts of the UK due to our unique geography of sparsely populated rural areas and high-density urban areas. Both require more GPs per head than might normally be the case. But here I have to strike a more critical note because the SNP government have presided over a GP crisis in Scotland. A hard-hitting report by Audit Scotland in 2019 said that this government was ill-equipped for sorting out Scotland's GP crisis and would struggle to meet its commitment to recruit an extra 800 family doctors over the next decade. Between 2009 and 2019, we've seen a diminution in the number of GP practices, while the average practice patient list has gone up. This is a long-standing problem. Back in 2008, the BMA warned Nicola Sturgeon, then Health Secretary, that Scotland was facing severe shortages of GPs in 2008. Fact remains that there is a significant shortage of GPs in Scotland, and it's no wonder that the Royal College of General Practitioners in Scotland predict that there will be a shortfall of 856 whole-time equivalent GPs this year. Others have mentioned the concerns that were raised with the bill itself, and it is worth acknowledging them. They include a fear that the bill could lead to St Andrews University setting up its own medical degree, and the Aberdeenshire Health and Social Care Partnership had concerns that that would have on the effect that that would have on recruitment and retention of school leavers and graduates in the North East. Others have asked and argued for a partial removal of the prohibition rather than a complete removal. And Dundee University in particular has argued that an independent medical degree at St Andrews University could have a negative impact on teaching capacity in the area. Those concerns should be recognised. In conclusion, Presiding Officer, the Scottish Conservatives agree with the Health Committee's view that this bill is important. We support it at stage one. We look forward to seeing how it progresses through Parliament. And finally, we do feel it important to acknowledge some of the concerns raised by stakeholders at stage one, as well as the worrying context of a continuing and concerning GP shortage that exists in Scotland. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Cameron. I call on Alec Rowley to be followed by Willie Rennie.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I'm pleased to be speaking in this debate today on the University of St Andrews degree in Medicine and Dentistry bill, and Labour very much welcome this bill being brought forward. I would like to thank the work of the Health and Sports Committee for the Stage 1 report that they have produced and for all the evidence submitted by respondents for the proposed bill. I have had the privilege of visiting the School of Medicine at St Andrews on a number of occasions and have seen firsthand the excellent facilities, as well as speaking with some of the exceptionally talented researchers and scientists working for the school. The facilities at the university are first class, and students from all over the world are well placed to start their careers in medicine from St Andrews. As members will be aware, St Andrews University, founded in 1411, is the oldest university in Scotland and one of the oldest in the world. It plays a major role in the Fife community, being one of the largest employers in Fife. It provides over 2,500 jobs directly in the region. This is coupled with the fact that the university made over £152 million in export earnings for Fife in 2018-19, figure equivalent to nearly 8% of all Fife exports. As such, the bill before us today is a positive one in that it rectifies an issue that resulted in the university not being able to confer degrees in medicine directly. The fact that this Fife University is one of the most prestigious in the world and will now be able to confer medicine and dentistry degrees directly in partnership with the University of Dundee for the ScotGen programme will hopefully attract more students, researchers and academics from all over the world to Fife, benefiting the local community and hopefully generating money for the wider local economy. In the policy memorandum to this bill, it states Scotland's higher education sector is facing significant challenges given the constraints on immigration, the consequences of the EU exit, and the likely decrease in attractiveness of studying abroad as a result of the public health pandemic. There are also significant challenges to overcome in creating and growing a more sustainable medical workforce. Removing the prohibition entirely allows greater flexibility in addressing these challenges by creating a fairer higher education system and enabling all of Scotland's valued institutions to maximise the options and opportunities they offer to students in Scotland. I largely agree with this rationale, and given that it allows the University of St Andrews to play a key role in the ScotGEM programme that is aimed at increasing careers in general practice and has a focus on rural medicine and healthcare improvements, then I believe it is a welcome move for Scotland as a whole. If this pandemic has taught us anything, then surely recognising the vital role of our NHS and the medical practitioners within it, and the need to attract more medical professionals and general practitioners be one of the biggest takeaways from these turbulent times. So I welcome the Stage 1 debate today and look forward to this legislation making its way through the Parliament. Presiding Officer.
Mr Rowley, thank you very much indeed. I call Willie Rennie to be followed by Emma Harper. Willie Rennie.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. In essence, this is a simple bill. It will bring the University of St Andrews more in line with the other medical schools across Scotland. It is to correct an unintended consequence from, 55 years ago. It is a sensible measure. It's almost administrative, but it's certainly the right thing to do. Formerly constituted by the issue of a papal bull in 1413, today St Andrews is a thriving, successful global university where students from all over Scotland mix with students from across the globe. And as the MSP for North East Fife, I see that on a weekly basis for myself. It is an amazing institution. What we are correcting today is the unintended consequence from the 1966 Act, which separated St Andrews from its college, Queen's College in Dundee. As there was no medical in St Andrews, I think this was a logical step to be taken. That was to award the clinical part of the medical degree offered at that time to the new university across the Tay. So the Act removed the power to grant undergraduate and postgraduate degrees in medicine, midwifery, as well as dentistry by default. St Andrews continued to offer a 3-year undergraduate BSc in medicine, which is then used to gain entry to 3 further years of training at other universities with full medical degree awarding abilities. A major part of the training for these students is undertaken at St Andrews. And with such a long and prestigious heritage, it is only right that St Andrews should be able to move forward in this way today. I would argue that it should be able to operate on an equal basis with other universities in relation to any current or future developments or commissions for a new medical or dentistry provider. This change would support the development of the medical workforce across Scotland and give a choice of universities for students. One of the first steps would be for the university to be able to award, as we've heard today, the ScotGEM primary medical qualification jointly with the University of Dundee, in effect renewing the partnership of 55 years ago in a new way. ScotGEM students enrol to their programme of study with a clear expectation that this is what would happen. So today is the right step to take for them. It is only the fair thing to do. We will be able to resolve the anomaly that exists. The University of St Andrews is the only academic institution in the UK that is legally barred from awarding primary medical qualifications. So let us move forward with this bill today. It is the right thing to do. It gets rid of this anomaly, this mistake effectively from 55 years ago. And that's why I support this bill today.
Thanks very much, Mr Rennie. I'm going to call Emma Harper to be followed by Liz Smith. Emma Harper.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I welcome the opportunity to speak in this important Stage 1 debate on the University of St Andrews Degrees in Medicine and Dentistry Bill. And I thank all who gave evidence, as well as the clerks, to the Health and Sport Committee. And as the Cabinet Secretary said, this bill, which is technical in nature, will remove an unfair and anti-competitive prohibition which prevents the University of St Andrews from awarding medical and dentistry primary medical qualifications. And in doing so, the bill does seek to repeal a section of the Universities Scotland Act 1966, which prevents the university from offering medical degrees. This is welcome as it affords the University of St Andrews equality of competition and of educational opportunity. As Deputy Convener of Health and Sport Committee, I participated in scrutiny of the bill. The committee produced a short report on the bill in which we overwhelmingly supported the principles of the bill, and we only had one recommendation. While discussions around the possibility for a new medical school have been postponed due to the current COVID-19 pandemic, the committee considered it would be prudent, when resumed, that they take into consideration the wider evidence we heard on NHS recruitment and helping support widening access to medicine. On this point, I'd like to raise awareness of the work locally across Dumfries and Galloway for the potential for a new medical school for Scotland to be located within the region, possibly at the site of the Crichton campus, which is already home to the Universities of Glasgow and West of Scotland. I would ask the Cabinet Secretary to keep this in mind as we move forward, and I will continue to engage with her and with local campaigners on this issue. Presiding Officer, bringing this bill forward will also allow the University to award a joint degree with the University of Dundee for the purposes of the ScotGEM programme, the Scottish Graduate Entry to Medicine. And we've already heard about that from other speakers prior to me. ScotGEM, which I have discussed in Chamber and Committee previously, and which is currently operational across Dumfries and Galloway and other parts of Scotland, is being provided by the University of St Andrews and Dundee in collaboration with the University of Highlands and Islands. It is Scotland's first graduate entry medicine programme, and it has strictly a rural focus. The first cohort of students are expected to graduate in 2022. The bill, if not passed, then their degree will only be awarded to the university or by the University of Dundee only. Timing of Scottish Government's introduction of this bill is welcome, as it enables the Universities of St Andrews and Dundee to award the degree jointly to the ScotGEM students. It is simply unfair for any academic institution to be prevented from offering a degree in a controlled subject that their counterparts elsewhere can offer. Indeed, it is only fair to implement this bill for the ScotGEM students currently on the programme who signed up in the promise of a unique degree sponsored by both universities. The Health Secretary said in reference to the first committee evidence session on the bill that it is clearly the expectation of students who enrolled in this special course and who hope to graduate shortly that they are awarded a joint degree from both respective universities. Presiding Officer, I want to again welcome this bill and its very real implications for both the University of St Andrews and for the ScotGEM students, many which are currently learning and practising across Dumfries and Galloway. And I also again emphasise the importance of greater access to medicine for students across Scotland, and as such support any work to bring a future medical school to rural areas of Scotland, including Dumfries and Galloway. Thank you.
Thank you, and can I first of all welcome the comments that Alex Rowley made earlier when he mentioned that if ever there was a time for us to be reminded about the importance of our medical professions, it's now. COVID-19 has demonstrated their outstanding contributions as public servants, both in terms of their professional skills in an ever more challenging world, and of course their dedication to their patients and colleagues. But COVID-19 has also exposed the huge pressures under which they've often had to operate, and the need for Scotland to train more doctors, dentists and other medical professionals. In particular, we want more doctors and dentists who are schooled in our universities to have more job opportunities once they've graduated, including, of course, in Scotland. And part of that is ensuring that we are updating the relevant legislation. COVID-19 has, of course, also shown the benefits of outstanding university research programmes, and that's another reason why this particular legislative change is welcome. Top-class research must be accompanied by much greater collaboration within higher education, but also by universities working with other sectors and with their local economies, including within the rural areas. The legislative change we are considering this afternoon would provide significant greater benefits for the whole of Fife, delivering better primary care and providing new incentives for clinical research within the life sciences. In the longer run, when COVID is effectively controlled and hopefully one day eradicated, there will be debates and inquiries about the structure of our health services. But it is already certain that there will be a much greater focus on primary care delivery. Fife has already experienced more than its fair share of challenges in this respect, and of course the issues with St Andrews out-of-hours services a couple of years ago highlighted that accessibility to primary care is a key issue, especially in our most rural communities. If this legislation passes, full medical degrees will still require ScotGem and GMC accreditation, but the change would make for much greater fairness and ensuring that there will be a level playing field for St Andrews to participate equally with other PMQ awarding universities. That was acknowledged by the Cabinet Secretary herself in the recent evidence sessions and is very much in line with the views of the Principal of St Andrews, Professor Sally Mapstone. The Cabinet Secretary also acknowledged that the bill is about taking the practical steps to make participation in higher education feasible for more people. Of course, that is also in line with the Scottish Government's widening access agenda. There is no doubt, Presiding Officer, that higher education is facing immense challenges, and not just because of COVID-19. Last week's budget briefing from Professor Jerry McCormack and University of Scotland, which I attended with some other MSPs, laid bare the extent of the financial challenges in Scotland, most especially when it comes to support for teaching funds, and I hope the Scottish Government is recognising this ahead of the budget on Thursday. The briefing also exposed the challenges Scotland is facing when it comes to our outstanding record in attracting research funding, and that is something that we must not lose. St Andrews has always been a key part of that research, and that's just another reason why this bill is so important. Therefore, I'm very happy to support this bill.
Thank you very much, Ms Smith. I call Daniel Johnson to be followed by George Adam.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. It gives me great pleasure to speak to the motion and in favour of this bill. As members may know, I take a great interest in St Andrews, such a great interest that I sometimes wonder whether or not Willie Rennie thinks that I'm planning an annexation. But my interest obviously largely extends from the fact that I'm a St Andrews graduate myself, but I'm also the grandson of a St Andrews graduate. My grandmother graduated from St Andrews with an MBCHB in 1945, having also been one of the first female presidents of the Bute Medical Society in St Andrews. What's all the more the remarkable of that, if being a woman doctor in 1945 wasn't sufficiently significant, she did so having completed a modern languages degree at St Andrews by the age of 19. So in some ways, this is correcting a much longer historic anomaly which my grandmother could have potentially benefited from. But the wider point here is that St Andrews has a long and a well-established tradition in terms of delivering medical education. Medicine was founded in St Andrews in 1897 by the Marquess of Bute, who was the then rector. It was only in 1967 that there was an interruption, but St Andrews continued to offer medical education by offering degrees that conferred a BSc in medical sciences, with students then going on to complete their medical training in Manchester. And I think what needs to be said to the concerns that have been raised by some, that this may lead to competition, in a sense, this situation has led to medical graduates being lost from Scotland. By having medical students start their medical training in St Andrews but move to Manchester, we lose doctors. And that is something we can ill afford to do. So St Andrews has a long-established heritage in medical training. There's one that is largely continuous. And indeed, it also has a reputation for innovation. And I think the ScotGem degree programme is an example of this. I think it is a good idea to help people to change careers into medicine. It's not always obvious to people when they leave school what they may wish to do, and certainly academic excellence at school is not necessarily the best indicator of people who are suited to a career in medicine. Moreover, we need more doctors, not just in general practice, but overall, we have a lower number of doctors per capita in Scotland than most other OECD countries. The average across the UK is 2.8 physicians per thousand. Scotland is slightly ahead of that, but that compares to an average across the OECD of 3, and in Germany and Austria it's approaching 5. Quite simply, we need more doctors, we need more GPs. Therefore, enabling St Andrews to train more doctors is undoubtedly a good thing and not something to be cautious about. As I've said, St Andrews has been established itself as a centre of innovation, not just through history, but also in more recent times. For such a small university, some of the innovations, such as the Combined Heat and Power Centre that it's established in Guardbridge, along with business incubators, and I think the innovation that we see with this degree programme stands in that context. What we should be seeking to do is enabling St Andrews to innovate more across all its subject areas, but in particular within medicine. This bill enables it to continue that future innovation. And clearly, we must support this bill so that we can have more doctors who can enter the profession through more and flexible routes, and that we support the continued innovation in medicine and other subjects at the University of St Andrews. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr Johnson. And I call George Adam before we move to closing speech. George Adam.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I am a member of the committee and I'm pleased to take part in this debate today, although it's the very first time I've had to do a speech remotely, so apologies in advance if anything should go wrong. But it's interesting listening to the debate so far. I heard Daniel Johnson, who almost took on a Stuart Stevenson-esque part of his speech when he started going down his family tree and those who attended St Andrews or were alumni of St Andrews University. I also listened to Donald Cameron's speech, and considering Mr Cameron is actually a member of the committee, it was surprising to hear when he went a wee bit different from what we'd been discussing on committee, which was effectively, we all agreed, that this was a way forward to ensure that we could get more GPs, particularly in rural areas, to get out there and actually work within our communities. And it was a surprising speech from Mr Cameron himself, but as others have said, Presiding Officer, this bill is very technical in its nature, and it seeks to remove, as the Cabinet Secretary said, an archaic, unfair and anti-competitive prohibition that prevents the University of St Andrews from awarding medical and dentistry degrees. I could stop there, Presiding Officer, and save us all 3 to 4 minutes of all our lives, but I'll endeavour to go a little further in this debate. The prohibition was created in the mid-60s, as said before, and it was to accommodate Queen's College from St Andrews, the separation of Queen's College from St Andrews University. And so Queen's College could form their own University of Dundee. But this happened before I was even born, Presiding Officer. Now I'm 51 years old, and I would assume that they've achieved all that they wanted to achieve by doing what they did way back in the 60s. And I know the world of academia is not one that likes change, but surely after half a century, an argument can be made to look at things a wee bit differently and move forward. But one thing that is quite important is no other higher education institution in Scotland or in the United Kingdom is prohibited by primary legislation from awarded degrees in any discipline. And it's clear that the University of Scotland Act 1966 did not intend to prevent future competition between the University of St Andrews and any other higher education institute in Scotland, or indeed the rest of the UK. The bill would embed a fairer higher education sector and enable our valued institutions in Scotland to maximise the options that they offer for students in Scotland. The Health and Sport Committee considered the bill at stage 1 and supports the principles of the bill. Repealing this provision would allow the university to award a joint degree with the University of Dundee for the purposes of the Scottish Graduate Entry Medicine degree. The timing of this is to help with the Scottish Government's introduction of the bill is to enable the University of St Andrews to award jointly with the University of Dundee any medical degrees to Scottish graduates entering the medicine programme student in advance of the first cohort graduating in 2022. And surely this is a good thing. It's my opinion that it's wrong that any academic institution be prevented from offering a degree in a controlled subject that their counterparts elsewhere can offer. Some of the evidence that the committee heard were from other institutions that, from what I can see, felt a bit threatened by University of St Andrews getting involved in this field. The idea of competition and further options for students is, after all, a good thing. Presiding Officer, sometimes there are times when we all broadly agree a way forward for a bill. They don't come around very often, but this is and should be one of these times. I believe this is a positive way forward for the institutions involved and would encourage colleagues to agree with the general principles of the bill and vote for that at decision time tonight.
Move now to closing speeches. Claire Baker to be followed by Brian Whittle.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm very pleased to close this afternoon's debate and support the Stage 1 report on general principles. It is a short bill whose intent is clear and it has our full support. It has been interesting to read about and to listen to members this afternoon talk about why St Andrews is in the unique position of not granting degrees in medicine or dentistry. The Cabinet Secretary will know that I have raised the difficulties that come from a shortage of GPs. I have raised the shortages that are in Kirkcaldy in particular, but there are challenges in recruitment across Fife and in other parts of Scotland. The difficulties that health boards and IGBs are facing recruiting and retaining GP and primary care staff is well known. There has been a steady flow of retirals and resignations in Fife, and it's proving very difficult to replace them. In Fife, a number of GP practices operate with closed lists, and a number have had to come under the control of NHS Fife. There are too many practices that are relying on locum cover and are described in a high-risk situation. This has also led to difficulties in delivering out-of-hours services in local hospitals, and other members refer to the situation there was in St Andrews, and the closure of a palliative care ward in Methil as a responsible medical officer could not be identified. There are a number of solutions and responses to the crisis in GP numbers, and in response to questions I have raised, the Cabinet Secretary has often highlighted the ScotGem programme. As a Mid Scotland and Fife MSP, I am pleased to see the development of the course, the first graduate entry medical degree, aimed at graduates interested in a career in general practice. The focus on rural medicine and healthcare improvement is welcome, and I support the financial incentive that is offered. We are competing in an international market for healthcare staff, and I hope that graduates of the ScotGem programme decide to commit to the NHS on graduation. The model that has been created at St Andrews and Dundee universities is innovative, and I welcome that the first students are due to graduate in 2022. It's really interesting to see the background of the students, the different workplaces they come from, and the variety of experiences they are bringing to the course. Their expectation is that they will graduate with a joint degree in medicine, Andrews and Dundee, and this short bill will enable that to happen. As other MSPs have highlighted, the repeal of the legal prohibition from awarding medical and dentistry degrees is broader than the intention and aim of the bill. During the evidence stage, this raised some questions about the interest St Andrews University has expressed in awarding medical degrees in addition to the ScotGem programme. The Aberdeenshire Health and Social Care Partnership and Dundee University have both expressed a preference for a partial removal of the prohibition. The partnership between Dundee and St Andrews has led Dundee to express concerns about training capacity for their students if St Andrews were to start awarding medical degrees, and also their ability to place students in local hospitals. So they are expressing concerns about capacity and competition. The HSPC are concerned about the impact on retention of school leavers and graduates in North East if St Andrews were to change its offer. St Andrews University have, I think, rightly argued that complete removal of the prohibition is needed to address the issue of fairness and allow them to compete with other institutions. The policy memorandum does describe the prohibition as unfair, anti-competitive and no longer serving a purpose. The Cabinet Secretary, as she said today, does not support a partial removal and is arguing that it's always intended to be temporary and that it is unfair. It's unclear whether the ScotGem programme is the catalyst for this change or if that argument has already been had and won. While this legislation will allow St Andrews to award medical and dentistry degrees, there are a number of measures that have to be taken first. The GMC have to approve the institutions and there are financial restrictions. St Andrews University have made their intention clear and submitted a bid in the open competitive commissioning process to develop proposals for a new medical school that are set out in the 2019 programme for government. While this process is currently suspended, this bill will allow St Andrews to pursue their plans, and it will be important to consider the points made on widening access, NHS recruitment and the potential impact on the North East when making any decision. However, Presiding Officer, these are decisions that are out with the immediate concerns of the bill, and I fully support what the bill is trying to achieve in terms of the ScotGem project, and I think there is a positive case for St Andrews expanding their offer in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And can I call Brian Brittle before we move to the Cabinet Secretary, Jean Freeman? Brian Brittle.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm very pleased to be closing this debate on behalf of the Scottish Conservatives and also as a member of the committee. And I'd like to start perhaps by just reflecting some comments that Liz Smith, among others, have made about how pertinent this bill is when she stated that COVID has focused all our attention on the importance of our healthcare sector, for which we cannot say enough that we are eternally grateful. And also she talked about the important work that universities undertake in research and innovation, and St Andrews has always been to the fore in that regard. I think, as others have said, the aim of this bill is to remove a legislative prohibition preventing the University of St Andrews from holding qualifying exams and awarding degrees in medicine and dentistry. The reason for taking action at this time is to allow the University of St Andrews, jointly with the University of Dundee, to award undergraduate primary UK medical qualifications to Scottish graduate entry medicine. With the first set of students are actually due to complete their 4-year course and graduate in 2022. And the premise says that the prohibition is unfair and anti-competitive and no longer serves a purpose. Therefore, in removing the prohibition, the bill creates a fairer higher education sector and enables all of Scotland's institutions to maximise the options and opportunities they offer to students in Scotland. And the importance of this bill, of course, can be seen against the well-documented background where Scotland is generally short of clinicians, which Donald Cameron raised, and I think quite rightly raised, suggesting that we, for example, that we're about 850 GPs short. And so any move to tackle this long-standing issue should be given due consideration, especially for those in rural communities, an issue I think the Scottish Government have presided over. The lifting of this prohibition has specifically been targeted at the lack of GPs in rural areas. Again, like Donald Cameron, my area suffers from this. There was widespread general support for the repeal of the prohibition in both written submissions and oral evidence. One of the main reasons for support was that it would bring St Andrews University in line with other medical schools in Scotland and allow the University of St Andrews to award the ScotGem PMQ jointly with the University of Dundee. And as our convener said, ScotGem argued that students enrolling in this programme of study were given a clear expectation their degree would be jointly awarded by the University of St Andrews and the University of Dundee. The University of Dundee, though, supported the prohibition being removed only partially for the purposes of ScotGem, but with it remaining in place for all other degree awarding purposes. And according to the PM, this was on the basis that there would potentially be adverse and unintended consequences to the education and training environment in Scotland. And I think this was an issue explored by the committee, in effect asking the question, will the bill serve only to dilute the number of graduates across more universities? I think the Cabinet Secretary gave us assurances that that was not the case. So we are very supportive of the ScotGem programme. We also support the removal of the prohibition to allow St Andrews University to award degrees in medicine and dentistry, and we do recognise this prohibition is unfair and was not intended to remain permanently in place. For that reason, a partial removal only of the prohibition would not be appropriate. The issue of whether St Andrews University competes to establish a new medical school is not provided for in this bill and does not require additional legislative changes. Discussions around proposals for a new medical school have been postponed, although we consider it would be prudent when resumed that they take into consideration the wider evidence we heard on NHS recruitment and widening access to medicine during our bill scrutiny. So in conclusion, Presiding Officer, we will be supporting this Stage 1 bill at decision time and look forward to the bill progressing through Stages 2 and 3. Presiding Officer.
Thank you very much, Mr Whittle, and we move now to our closing contribution from Cabinet Secretary Jean Freeman.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I'm very grateful to members for the contributions they've made. I found them all very interesting, a degree of history and a degree of insight in all of this, but I am particularly grateful for the level of support that they are offering to stage one of this bill. It is, as colleagues have said, a single purpose bill, and I want just to emphasise so that we're all clear that the passing of this bill as it goes through stage 3, stage 2 and comes back to Parliament for stage 3 is neither determinative or providing for St Andrews to offer a full PMQ medical degree on its own. These are matters for future discussions, and Claire Baker set out very clearly what needs to happen should we have a further medical school that is separate from the existing medical schools. I want to single out a few points that have been made, though, if I may. I particularly agree with the points that Alec Rowley made, set out in terms of his support for the bill, and Willie Rennie making the point in support of the bill that St Andrews is the only higher institution barred from offering a degree in any discipline in the whole of the UK. What we're trying to do here, as members have all acknowledged, is simply remove a prohibition that was never intended to be anything other than transitionary, and whose continuance is unfair on this particular institution, but also unfair on higher education across Scotland as a whole. Emma Harper made an important point on the importance of rural medicine, which I'll return to, and Liz Smith, a very important point with respect to research. In terms of rural medicine, whilst agreeing with Daniel Johnson's point, I would never gainsay the challenges that we have in terms of general practice and indeed other areas of our NHS, and a lot of work for us to do in rebuilding our health service following the pandemic. I hope not necessarily exclusively on a business as usual basis, but using some of the innovative thinking and delivery that we have seen our health service respond to this pandemic. I would, in passing though, simply make the point, mainly because I'm sure Mr Cameron couldn't help himself, but Scotland does have more GPs per 100,000 of the population than any other part of the United Kingdom. That, of course, is a position that we seek to increase and improve on. And that takes me to ScotGem. ScotGem is a very innovative programme, designed and delivered both by St Andrews and Dundee universities, and they're both to be congratulated on that. It has a number of special elements with GP practitioners as clinical teachers in the programme, a focus on rural practice and rural medicine. And I would say in my 2 years as the Health Secretary, I've understood very clearly there is much about the delivery of rural medicine that is important for those in more urban settings to learn from. And in terms of the bursary, I was asked this question, that for every year of the bursary you commit to working on graduation 1 year for NHS Scotland. 94% of the current ScotGem cohort of 165 students have made that commitment. So it's clear to me that those students will be retained by NHS Scotland, at least for an initial period, but I am sure for much longer than that. So I'm very grateful to members. Daniel Johnson made the point, and I think it's a well-made point, about ScotGem offering us an insight into the widening ways in which we can access the routes into medicine. And I hope that as we go forward, we will see more innovative approaches such as ScotGem coming forward in terms of medical undergraduate education. In conclusion, Presiding Officer, can I repeat my thanks to members? This has been a very important, single-purpose bill, but a very important bill. I'm grateful to members for their support, and I hope Parliament will agree later to support stage 1 of this bill in terms of the general principles, and I look forward to stage 2 and subsequently to stage 3. Thank you very much.
Concludes our debate on the University of St Andrews Degrees in Medicine and Dentistry Bill. As the Cabinet Secretary said, the vote on this bill will come at decision time, and I should just warn members that we're running about 25 minutes late following the connectivity issues earlier. However, at this stage, we're going to move on to the next item of business, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Lewis MacDonald. Lewis MacDonald.